Our firm handles a pretty narrow spectrum of cases. We focus mainly on estate planning and probate cases. And then we also help families that are seeking guardianship of an adult where there's no real controversy regarding the guardianship. Basically, what we're talking about when we talk about estate planning is we're talking about planning for one's eventual incapacity or end of life, and what happens then to you as a person and to your assets. Estate planning is important because it allows individual peace of mind knowing that their wishes will be honored and that the people that they care for the most will be taken care of in accordance with those wishes. I think one of the most common misconceptions that people have is the fact that you need to be wealthy in order to develop an estate plan. There's a lot of things that we can address in estate planning that have nothing to do with material assets, things like incapacity and healthcare and end-of-life wishes, burial arrangements, all can be addressed in an estate plan, and those have nothing at all to do with your material assets. In addition, most people tend to kind of underestimate the tax and cost burdens that are associated with even a fairly modest estate. And so I think it's prudent for even people of pretty modest means to have a comprehensive estate plan. You know, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of organizations, companies out there that will offer really inexpensive estate planning services without the advice of an attorney. The risk you run is not being aware of the potential pitfalls. There's tax questions that are court procedure questions. If you don't use an attorney to create an estate plan, you may unwittingly make some really, really terrible mistakes. I think a lot of people are afraid of estate planning. It's, thinking about end of life and all of that. It's kind of grim. And one of the biggest mistakes I've ever seen, to be honest, is putting it off. And because you never know when, unfortunately, it may become necessary. I would encourage anyone that has, even modest assets and a family to go ahead and make the call and get a plan started. It's ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a much less painful process than I think most people are afraid it is. I think our clients hire us to be their representation for a wide variety of reasons, but the biggest one, I think, is authenticity. We limit the number of clients we take in on a monthly basis because we want to spend the adequate amount of time with each client to make sure that we really understand you, we understand your circumstances, and we're not shipping out the same set of documents for every client, but it's highly personalized. The other thing that I think a lot of clients really enjoy is the fact that we're very educationally focused. We want you as a client to be empowered to understand what we're doing and why we're doing it. I don't adopt a prescriptive approach. I'm not here to tell you what you need. I'm here to help you understand exactly what the options are to achieve the goals that you have. I think our current and past clients would both agree that they had an exemplary experience. I think that they would genuinely say that they were met with caring and compassion, that they were heard and listened to, and they achieved exemplary results. Client communication is the most important thing, in my opinion. And that's why I work very hard to keep the channels of communication open. My goal is to return an email inquiry within 24 hours. I try very hard to return telephone calls the same day that I receive them because I want you to know that I am listening to what you're saying, I'm working on your case, and I'm sensitive to your concerns. We are a very small firm, and we're a small firm by design. When I was in law school, I worked for a very, very small law firm. And my boss had been in the practice of law for longer than I've been alive. And so she had developed these rich relationships with clients, sometimes going across multiple generations, 2 and 3 generations of family members. And I was really blown away by the fact that she was able to do that. And it wasn't just a transaction, it wasn't a name or a file or a dollar amount. The goal when I established this firm was to recreate that experience and to be able to develop those deep meaningful relationships with clients. So I will not hand your case off to another lawyer because I'm the only lawyer here. I feel really strongly about developing that relationship between the attorney and the client. Now, that being said, I don't hesitate to say if I feel like we're not a good match, if it's not a type of matter that I feel totally comfortable handling, or I feel like you may benefit from another lawyer better, I will certainly refer you to another lawyer. But once we've signed the agreement, I'm going to be doing the work on your case. Our initial case consultations are quite a bit different than what you might expect at other law firms. Before we meet with each prospective client, we send a detailed questionnaire to gather as much information about your situation as possible, so that when we sit down and we have that initial consultation, it's actually a working planning meeting rather than just an initial meet and greet in sort of introduction of some generic concepts. We book that initial meeting for 2 hours because we want to be able to take a deep dive into your specific circumstances and advise you on the risks and opportunities related to you specifically in your specific situations.